This is what a genuine American city should feel like. You don't need to know anything about architecture to see how or why this works. In the next few minutes, you and I will see how we used to build and why it still holds up. Come, I'll show you. You won't find Christ Church on the list of the world's most celebrated temples. It is designed with modesty and restraint, and this is deliberate, a monument to colonial craftsmanship. The steeple was completed in the year of our Lord 1754, a ubiquitous church feature that Georgian and colonial builders favored, inspired by Gothic architecture. The baptismal font, in which William Penn was baptized, is still in use. Despite the modesty, it is the main church here, as important to Philadelphia as Notre Dame to Paris, St. Peter's Basilica to Rome, or St. Paul's Cathedral to London. When you walk around it, slow down. Quiet dignity takes time to appreciate. Across the street from the square in front of the church, you'll find Franklin Court, a complex of historic sites and museums. This was Benjamin Franklin's house and print shop, built during his lifetime and part of a larger working courtyard.
Did you bring any beer?
Now, Independence Hall has been adapted and restored many times. What you see today, wide openings and a lack of doors, reflects centuries of use and restoration choices. History is a living thing here, and the architectural record shows that. That said, the absence of doors in the Supreme Court wing has come to symbolize a citizen's right to a public trial. Judicial proceedings are visible and accountable to the community. Anyone can walk in and watch and listen. The Graff House, well, in fact, Thomas Jefferson only rented the second floor rooms where he wrote the Declaration of Independence. After he moved out, the place was modified several times. It served as a print shop, a warehouse, and a diner. At one point, the Penn National Bank bought the site and demolished the building altogether, the idea being to erect their new headquarters there.
How very patriotic of them.
The current version is a reconstruction. It was erected by the National Park Service in 1975
to prepare for the 1976 bicentennial celebration. It's a highly accurate recreation. In fact, unlike many lost historic buildings, the Graff House survived long enough to be photographed, and that helped a lot.
Inalienable rights, y'all. As for the Philly cheesesteak, according to legend, the Olivieri brothers invented it and began to sell it from their hot dog stand. It became so popular that they eventually opened a restaurant in South Philly specializing in cheesesteaks. It is called Pat's King of Steaks, and it's barely a restaurant in the formal sense, more of a beloved sandwich stand that never pretended to be anything else. Still, the original version, selling it in a street like this, is of course the canon, and I'm happy to report that the tradition is alive and well. City Hall, yes, built at the turn of the 20th century. It was built to represent people, not corporations. It was built because civic buildings should look important and permanent and be pleasant looking, easy on the eye. It was built because the architects, John MacArthur Jr. and Thomas U. Walter, gave Paris a good long look, liked what they saw, and decided to bring some of the ideas to Philly and improve upon them. They succeeded, at least so far as this building is concerned. The City Hall is a masonry building. There is no steel skeleton. The weight is borne by granite and brick walls, which are up to 22 feet thick. The exterior materials are limestone, granite, and marble. The stonemason, William Struthers, and sculptor Alexander Milne Calder were responsible for the more than 250 sculptures depicting artists, educators, and engineers who embodied American ideals and contributed to this country's genius. It's truly a beauty and a masterpiece. The statue on top is, of course, William Penn, the founder of the province of Pennsylvania.
There's a running irreverent joke about it, known to all Philadelphians, but we'll cover it in one of our next videos on Philly. Stay tuned.
You know, government buildings represent the government, which in a democracy represents the people, us, which is why they should be easy on the eye, elegant, impressive, and timeless. The Philadelphia Opera House, playfully dubbed the Academy of Music, is perhaps the strangest in the entire world. The exterior is modest looking by 19th century standards anyway, and there's a reason for that. However, if you look at it long enough, you'll begin to appreciate the seemingly unassuming design, especially once you discover what it conceals. The auditorium isn't large by modern standards, but it's utterly and unapologetically luxurious. Royal, in fact. Now here's the secret. The architects, in order to reserve as much of the budget for the interior as possible, designed a relatively plain brick and brownstone exterior that could be clad in marble if funds became available later.
They didn't? Oops. Well, that's okay.
It was built during the Buchanan administration, shortly before the Civil War. It is the oldest opera house in the United States that is still used for its original purpose. Oh, and these are actual original gas lights, still working. This needs to be mentioned. Philadelphia's trolley is cozy and charming, perfectly in keeping with the city's spirit. That's what America's former capital feels like, at least in the parts that have been preserved. Cozy, charming. Of the 7 Philadelphia metro lines, including Patco across the Delaware, one is a trolley line, another is light rail, another light metro, and the rest are just plain subways. The trolley lines begin beneath City Hall. They run underground through the historic center, then emerge, branch out, and continue at street level into the outer neighborhoods. Cozy and charming. They are part of Philadelphia's history. And now there are plans to replace them soon with generic international light rail cars. Now don't get me wrong, I like those. I am a big fan. The Hudson Bergen light rail cars are excellent, and I loved the ones I saw in Venice. I'd welcome them in New York, and I think they could greatly benefit Washington, D.C. as well, but not in Philadelphia. They don't belong here. The trolley is part of the city's history, part of its urban fabric. Why disrupt it? Some of Philadelphia's newer streetcars were built by Kawasaki, a foreign firm, yes, but they work because they were designed for this city specifically. They respect its street geometry. That's very different from importing a generic vehicle and calling it progress. You don't drink 50-year-old cognac from a plastic cup. In a 5-star restaurant, you don't replace silverware with plastic forks. Now let's get back to the human scale section of Philly. This is probably the most endearing part. It's amazing how much of history has been preserved here in purely residential areas. Many of the 18th century houses have been renovated, touched up, altered, but not completely rebuilt. Houses built in the 19th century and even in the 20th century do not clash with the older ones. There's unity for you and the sense of ensemble and, yes, history, a lot of history. As you head up Spruce Street, you might light upon this little alleyway. To your right, that's Quince Street, and there's this tiny maze of narrow lanes and old houses. I once used this area for one of my paintings. It's titled Rendezvous in Philadelphia 1776. And believe it or not, except for the 2 figures, male and female, in historic garments, I didn't have to change a thing because nothing has changed on this street since then. People live here. People have lived here for centuries. These are true neighborhoods, the heart of the city, cozy and charming. Walking or driving down Pine Street, you will encounter St. Peter's Church, built when the number of parishioners at Christ Church had exceeded capacity. This one is pretty much out of the way, and it's very modest and utterly charming. Before we try to figure out what went wrong in American cities and propose solutions, it's worth remembering what a genuine American city looks like. Philadelphia is not a museum. It's a living, breathing city, the most historic of all American cities, and we might as well look at its historic sections as a standard.
In our next video about Philly, we'll talk about what happened, well, just a few blocks away. You don't have to look very far. There are heroes and villains, and then there is Molly. This is a story of a brave woman who was betrayed by her lover, or so she thought. And from that point on, neither rain nor snow, nor pirates, nor highway robbers, nor indeed the American Revolution stood the slightest chance of making her deviate from her course. Thank you for watching. I'm Ricky Vernio, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. And I'll see you soon.